I'm David Sparks, the Chairman of the Council of me. I suppose I'm nominally your host tonight, but the real hosts are our staff who have put on this great effort. I've got a microphone to help me. So, welcome to Graduate House and to our annual Chairman's Cocktail Party. First, I'd like to announce that it's with regret that we acknowledge, as you probably know from newspapers, the death of one of our prominent life members, Zelman Khan, this week. And I particularly welcome representatives of the university and the university colleges who are amongst us this evening. And for those of you who may be not aware of it, our immediate past president, the Honourable John Cain, finished his term with us in October. And furthermore, unfortunately, as an apology for tonight, we had hoped to do something special for John this evening, but that will have to wait for another night. We've been looking for a replacement for John, by the way, for several months, knowing that his departure was imminent. We also have representatives from many of our suppliers here tonight. We welcome you and we thank you for your dedication to our needs. It's much appreciated for the quality of the food and the other services which we receive from you. And once again, as I mentioned earlier, our wonderful staff have been very talented in providing all this for us this evening. They are a great bunch of people. A lot of intangibles about our staff. The usual one, of course, that always stands out in my mind, that whenever we're here, even though you can see them running around, but they're very busy, they can always manage to smile when they're under pressure. A great group of people. So I thank our staff for all their assistance during the year and that in the future. Yes, well done. So tonight, I guess, is my opportunity to share with you what's been happening at Graduate House, where we might be heading to, and those sort of items. Not that there's very many gems amongst this, but it keeps you informed. The first item is to acknowledge Lynn Weston. You all know Lynn, I think, from this office. Lynn stepped up to the plate when I asked her to do so late last year to be the interim CEO, and she did that in most spectacular fashion, and the council and the staff were very pleased with what she did and the initiatives which she undertook to pick up our position. Lynn not only had the great support of her staff, but she has had a lot of assistance from a group of people we just call the volunteers. And they are a group of people that come in here at different times to fairly laborious tasks, such as putting lots and lots of material into envelopes, such as your newsletters, for those of you who have posted material sent to you. So to our volunteers, thank you very much for all your help through the year for what we do. We're also fortunate to have some generous donors who assist us in providing funds for those sort of things which we wouldn't otherwise purchase. And the William Berry Trust trustees stand out as a regular contributor to Graduate House. The William Berry Wing is the row of terraces up here, which you would have seen. And we'll meet those people later in the evening. Earlier this year, we were advised that we were to be a beneficiary of the wheel of Sir Philip Law, you might remember of Antarctic fame. But it was conditional that it be directed to our buildings. So this very generous bequest has enabled us to very recently upgrade the electrical wiring to absolute current status, that is in the William Berry Wing, the old building, which is great from the point of view of safety for our building and staff and residents in particular. We've also been able to use some of this funding for air conditioning in that same building. Because of the old building, they do get very hot in the summertime and very cold in the wintertime. So that'll be a great advantage for all of our postgraduate residents. We also have engaged architects to look at designs for a new set of toilets in our Stella Langford building, which you might have come through if you come from the car park this evening. We do need more toilets there for our guests, and and conference attendees in those rooms. So we offer a humble thank you to Sir Philip for thinking of us in this way. It's been a great opportunity for us to do some good work. Sir Philip's brother Peter apologised for his inability to attend this evening and asked us to wish everyone a pleasant evening and a happy Christmas and so on. Pass his best wishes on to you all. To my fellow councillors, I particularly thank you for your guidance and support during the year. I'm just a bit of a figure here in this organisation. I get a lot of ideas from not only councillors but lots of members that I'll meet at different functions, so I'm just an ordinary guy otherwise, but just to coordinate things. It's been an objective of mine to create opportunities where our council can be exposed or learn from other people, and last year we ran a 2-day retreat in this line where we could explore ideas in a much more informal atmosphere without the rigours of a council meeting and procedures and so on. And this year we did something similar. We focused on our rules that the Graduate Union has and the imminent change to those rules which the government will implement next year. And in the afternoon we focused on governance issues and techniques that we should be adopting as a council. And both of those sessions were conducted by prominent specialists in their field. So they were valuable, and we've got ongoing work now with those people planned for next year. And also the retreat for next year is coming into shape as well, which CEO Kerry and a few of us have been working on ready to present to the council. So with events of last year behind us, the council and in particular some of the committees have moved into their respective spaces with a real vigour. I'm very proud of the work that our committees are doing for the council and for Graduate Union. And I know it's always risky to sort of mention particular people, but I'll go through a few. First of all, Cheryl Kitson, Councillor Cheryl Kitson, who's sort of standing over here, but she's now trying to find herself a place to hide possibly. Cheryl took on my request to be the chair of what was then known as the Rules Committee. It wasn't really a strong committee, it didn't have a lot of or any sort of guidance in terms of regulations and so on, but Cheryl took it by the scruff of the neck, remodelled it. It's now called the Governance and Policy Review Committee. It has a very distinct set of guidelines and procedures in our regulations, so we know what it's got to do and provides guidance to the committee. Cheryl is in that role doing a lot of work on our rules, she with her committee. As I said, the rules are going to change. Cheryl has a series of special members meetings penciled in for next year where all members will be invited along to hear what we have done and what we are proposing and to get your feedback on those issues. And then we'll have to have a special meeting of members to ratify those changes because we have to advise the registrar and the government and it must have your support. And Councillor Andre Cleghorn, you'll meet later on, his House Board Committee as we call it, has been steering the wise application of the Philip Law of money, which I mentioned to you earlier, because the House Board is concerned with the fabric of these buildings, the security of the buildings, the welfare of the residents, and issues such as that. Councillor Linda Fisher is the chair of the Membership Committee, a third of our key members, committees. Linda has been steering that group for, I think, 3 years now, always looking for opportunities to make things better for our members and to increase the number of members we might have on our books. And Glenda, of course, is known to many of you because she was the chairperson of the Centenary Committee, which has been so successful this year, and she'll have a role here soon when I finish what I'm saying. Our Accounting Audit Committee is another very important group to look after our funds and make sure we're wise in the way money is spent. We're very fortunate having Philip Cobbin as our chair there. Philip's role is in accounting and audit, especially at the university where he's a teacher in those subjects. So we've got a very good operator there in Philip, and in fact we've got several people now who are very good at accounting issues, Leo Sandler, Cheer, and Katerina Kapadosis from the university itself. So we've got 3 good, talented people who understand accountancy and money control and those issues, which has given us a lot more strength. We're very fortunate to have a nice, dedicated, informal group of councillors and volunteers who plan the Sunday music events. For those who have been to those, you know that they're very popular. We've had 3 a year for the last 2 years now. If you're not doing anything on a Sunday sometime and you enjoy nice music, of the sort of thing that our age group would like, then keep your eyes and ears open for our newsletters, because they're very popular Sunday afternoons. Our web pages, of course, have been greatly upgraded. There's a lot of information there you can see if you're web compatible. You can see the pictures of all your counsellors on the web page now. You can see the family tree of the administration and the staff and how the place is organised. It's all there. I guess if you look in a few days' time, you'll probably see my profile, because we're being videoed. You can see lectures we've had recently, such as our Nobel Prize laureate Professor Peter Doherty, who spoke here just recently. That's all on there as live. You can watch it, listen to it. So there's a lot of interesting material there. Besides, you can get today's menu if you want to pop in on the bistro. So it's great stuff. You should use it a lot. So we have a lot to do on council, and I'm very proud of the way in which your councillors have devoted much of their personal time to the Graduate Union. They all share a common purpose for the future of our members and residents. And besides attending almost all of our social activities and chairing the council meetings, I'm the ongoing coordinator, for want of a better title, of our Twilight Lecture series, and I'm also chairman of the Remuneration Committee. So that sort of gives you a feel for the little subgroups that tinker around within the council group itself. However, my most important role probably for this year was to obtain various approvals from the council for the formation of a working party, basically get a number of authorities to act in order to seek a replacement CEO. And I think most of you know the outcome of that. That working party selected Dr. Kerry Bennett as our new CEO and head of college. If you haven't met Kerry yet, tonight's a great opportunity. Where's Kerry? Competent in what she does, or very excellently competent, I should say. She's very professional, she's very ethical, and a tireless worker. She's generated lots of papers for the council to read. I think we're probably sometimes maybe close to 100 sheets of paper to read through prior to council meetings. Some councillors probably also share that with me, but there's a lot of material that is now being created as working papers and things to start us thinking about issues. So we're really starting to move. So thank you very much for Kerry for all that. But it's one thing, the chairman, as chairman, I sort of see one of my responsibilities is to look out for and look after the CEO. Because the CEO, when you think about it, is a very critical person in an organisation like ours. And I think it's important that we all watch for our CEO and make sure that she doesn't do too much work and try herself on a corner. So Kerry, Chairman's orders, you are to have a very long and restful break over Christmas.
Thank you.
To the future. Well, to a degree it's more of the same, because it's difficult to improve on a good model. But during few reflective moments with Kerry, she has had a few ideas that she's tossed around with me for maybe some variations to some of our members' activities, and I dare say she's discussed those with Glenn, who I mentioned earlier from the membership committee, to see if we can keep that a little bit more lively and interesting for you. So that's another area we have to watch this space. Andre and his team will continue with the House Board looking after the Woodinberry works I described to you earlier, bring on to fruition the new toilets in the new Stella Langford wing, and our special briefing sessions that I mentioned before. Cheryl will be looking after in the future. I think we also have to find a way of sustaining Sir Philip Law's name within the Graduate House in some way, in some prominent fashion, because of his outstanding generosity to us. A little issue that we'll have to give some thought to in the new year. Now, President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, no, sorry, he's not here tonight, but he said this, if this nation, let's say the Graduate House and the Council, is to be wise as well as strong, and if we are to achieve our destiny, then we need more new ideas from more wise men and women their ideas should be open to all, except the censor. We must know all the facts, hear all the alternatives, and listen to all the criticisms. So let us welcome controversial ideas and controversial people. That's the end of his quote. But it's sort of good thinking, isn't it? I mean, that's really where we've all got to learn from. So that's got to be a contribution from all of us. And take on all the ideas and evaluate them carefully. So I wish you all a very happy, safe Christmas, holiday seasons, and thank you very much for all your support during the year. It's, they're fun nights like this, and I certainly enjoy hosting you, and my time will sort of come and go very quickly too. So thank you once again. We've got more people to introduce to you and bring to the microphone if I can find my little running sheet. I think the first item is to ask the trustees of the William Berry Trust to come to the microphone. That's Barbara Funder and Heather Kudafidis. And they will make a presentation to our House Board Chairman. I mentioned Andre Cleghorn before, the work they are doing. So Andre, if you'd come forward, please. Well, I'll hand you the microphone to one of you ladies.
Everybody hear me? I'm told I've got a very quiet voice, so that's okay. My colleague, Mr. William Berry Trust, and I are delighted at the idea that the William Berry Wing, which are the terraces, in a complete turnaround over a few years after a few major developments, this area, the William Berry Wing, is to be developed this year with internal upgrading. So we're very delighted. The terms of the William Berry Trust actually cover these upgradings, and we're very happy to be able to present a cheque tonight. It's a Bill Berry's legacy, really, to the Graduate Union, and we have really much pleasure in presenting the cheque to Andre Cleghorn, particularly because he's been such a good friend of the Trust, and I think we're very, very happy about that. And he was also present at the naming of the William Berry Wing in July. So I'll finish there by presenting our cheque, or Heather and I will, to Andre, with best wishes to the Trust and a very happy future.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Thank you. And I'd just like to say a few more words about the Trust and William Berry, because they've done an immense amount for Graduate Union over the years. They haven't just given this cheque of $8,000. This is one of a series of ongoing donations, and I just tallied it up that over the years, the William Berry Trust have given over $105,000 to Graduate Union. That's quite an amazing amount of money. And I thought I'd also like to just mention a little bit about how it all started, and that was and who William Berry was. Well, William Berry was Secretary of the Graduate Union from 1948, and he was worked at the Graduate Union for 36 years, very long time. And during the period when he was Secretary, he, and also later Warden, he was influential with the council at that time in purchasing lots of properties around this area. And that's what really made this whole place possible. In 1957, he purchased the first 7 terrace houses, which were called the Gladstone Terraces, which have now been renamed the William Berry Wing in his honour. And then in 1970, when he received a bequest from Stella Langford, he used that bequest to buy the Stella Langford terrace houses, which were 3 terrace houses on the other side of this building, which we now have a big building up behind. And then later on, in 1974, he convinced the council to buy this derelict warehouse, the kids' warehouse, on this side. So that linked all our terrace houses into one long row of properties. And then sometime later, he then purchased another property behind in Burberry Street. So he had 4 substantial properties. And that's really made us able to finance all our developments. When we built this building, I think about 10 years ago, we sold the Brewery Street property and used the funds from that to build this building. So that was a wise move. If we hadn't had that property, which was a little bit derelict, if we hadn't had that, we wouldn't have been able to build this building or rebuild the Stella Langford terraces into the large development they are today. So really his incredible foresight in the early years has made this all possible.
Yeah.
So it's a fantastic job that he did. And when the Gladstone Terraces, they accepted their first residents in 1962, which is nearly 50 years ago. And when that occurred, William Berry, from being secretary, he then became the first warden of Graduate House. The ward, we don't have a warden anymore. We've now changed the title, and the warden is now called the CEO. So that's the kind of position it was. It's not like a prison. It was a warden. But anyway, so he became warden at that time, and he remained warden until he retired in 1984. When he retired, he decided he still wanted to be involved with the place, so he, together with a small group of supporters, he set up an organisation called the Past Graduates and Postgraduate Society, and they raised money for the terrace houses to keep them maintained, and that continued on until in 1999 William Berry passed away. When he passed away, he was even more generous, and that he left $100,000 to the Past Graduates and Postgraduates Association. And in his honour, the association decided to rename their association the William Berry Trust. So that's how the William Berry Trust came into existence. And ever since then, the William Berry Trust has been raising money and donating funds to the Graduate Union specifically for the maintenance and upgrading of the 7 terrace houses that form the William Berry wing. And there's been quite a lot done. The donations have allowed us to repaint the terraces several times, both inside and out. We've put a new roof on the terrace houses. We've put rainwater storage tanks in there. We've done all kinds of things. So it's a lot of stuff you don't see, but it's allowed us to maintain them in quite reasonable condition without doing too much more than that. However, now that we've got the other buildings all completed, the Graduate Union is now focusing on really having a major upgrade of the William Berry wing. And as David mentioned, we're now at the moment putting in air conditioning, and we're rewiring the whole terrace houses, and I believe the air conditioning should be finished next Friday. So after next Friday, instead of boiling in the summer and freezing in the winter, you'll have lovely air-conditioned rooms. And further to that, with the generous donation of the William Berry Trust, we'll be commencing the upgrading of the rooms themselves, so we'll be able to paint and carpet the rooms, gradually go through the whole lot. So when that's finished, instead of being the poor cousin of the Graduate Union, we hope to make these our premium rooms. And further to all that, I just mentioned it's nearly 50 years. Actually, next July, it'll be the 50th anniversary of the first residents coming to the terrace houses at Graduate Union. So that'll be our 50th year as a residential college of Melbourne University. And to mark that occasion, we'll be having a William Berry dinner on the 31st of July next year, and so I hope everyone comes along to that dinner and to make it a great event. And so that's all I have to say. I hope you enjoy a little bit of history of how we started. Thank you.
I'd like to ask Splendor Fisher to come forward. Councillor Fisher is the Vice Chair also of the Council. And as I mentioned earlier, she's also the Chair of the Planning Committee for all the celebrations which we enjoyed earlier on. So thank you, Glenn.
I think the old expression is I'm the chair and vice, so you can make what you want. It's been a real pleasure and a privilege, I think, to chair the group of people that have worked this year, but no more so than working with the staff here at Graduate Union, and in particular Lynn Weston and Ron DeLue and Daniel, her clerk, who have put in an enormous amount of time and effort in putting all our ideas into practice. So I really would like to thank them very sincerely for all that they've done for us, because none of it would have happened without them. And I thank you as members for all the support you've given us. We've had a full house at every function that we put on, from the cocktail party right back on the 4th of May through to tonight. And I hope we've left the best for last. And I do want to take a moment to mention one of the great side happenings. If any of you were at Coco's lunch recently, the concert that was the last of the series for the Sunday music graduates, if any of you want to tune into the Vocal Australia website, we've had a fantastic rap Australia-wide for the terrific concert that was put on here at Graduate House, so we've had some great feedback. Our forefathers never got to realise their dream. They had a great vision for what they wanted to do, and one of the things that they particularly wanted to see was an organisation that not only offered residential accommodation for graduate students, but also to continue on, very importantly, that intellectual and social stimulation for its members. And about 3 months into the year, Lynn Weston contacted me and said, you know, Glenda, we really need to have something that can last for the rest of time, or to take us into the next 100 years. And I'd like to say the creation of the artwork was my idea, but it wasn't, it was Lynn Weston's. She did initially propose a tapestry, and we did have an interesting day at the tapestry school in South Melbourne, where we learned we'd have to find a minimum of $90,000. So once we picked ourselves off the fourth, what were we going to do next? I think it says something about the family here at Graduate Union that our chef at the time, Robert, came forward and said, oh, did you realise my mother-in-law is an artist, a sculptural artist? And he arranged for us to meet with Deirdre, and Deirdre is very quietly sitting here in the front seat. She's a very shy lady. She finds her expression through her artwork. And out of those meetings, she created these magnificent set of drawings that some of you may have already had time to look at around the room, and also take in what they're actually about. Deirdre is a very accomplished artist. She's exhibited in solo and exhibitions for over 20 years and is represented in collections around the world. And I was interested to read that I'm privileged to live on the north face of Mount Macedon, so I'm very familiar with all the beautiful gardens and homes that we have in that area, and in particular Trevarthen. And I was interested to read, Deirdre, that you created a sculpture collection there. And she's very highly qualified in this field, and her sculptures in particular are held in a number of very prestigious places. What was probably less known is her extraordinary creation of drawings. When you look at the individual drawings, I really ask you to step up closely and look at what's behind the picture, because there you will find that we now have a permanent record of key history happenings. I read with interest in the paper yesterday that it's Sir Charles Dickens' anniversary in 2012, February. And the London Mint think they've come up with a wonderfully creative idea. They're going to mint a coin, and they've created the shape of his head by writing the names of all his publications in the shape of his head. And I thought, that's not novel. The Graduate Union has done it. And we've got 12? We have got 12 beautiful pictures to represent the history of our union going forward. So I thank Lynn for the great idea she's had. We have a beautiful appreciating piece of art. I thank Deirdre for the work and time that she put into investigating how she would interpret our request. And I do ask you to look closely and see exactly what she's given to us. They're not actually a series of drawings. They really are a series of our history. The one thing left for you to do is is not only to acknowledge Deidre. Deidre would be very happy to talk to you all about the various stories. One other thing I did forget to mention, the staff have put immeasurable time into thinking about how they could create a story around each of the pictures. So where you see 1981 to 2000, for example, just behind there, they have gone to all the trouble of putting out food that would have been served at that period of time. And I reckon that our forefathers are probably looking down on us and saying, gee, this is terrific. What a great way to take us into the next century of graduate year. The other privilege that I had during the year was to put forward Dr. David McCready's name for an honorary life membership in our organisation in recognition of his outstanding work with Indigenous youth in health areas, and also, it wasn't youth, it was just Indigenous people, sorry, and I saw you look of shock, and also his contribution to the phosphate debate. And it's with great pleasure now that we asked Dr. McCready, we're getting our £6 worth out of him because we asked him to cut the cake in May. And I'm going to ask him to come forward and unveil formally one of our pictures, which it really symbolises the start of our organisation at Dr. Barrett's home back in 1998. So please come and see.
Thank you, Glenda. As we sit or stand here, we feel surrounded by ghosts of the past a little bit, the wonderful depictions that Julie has made. And it's been my honour and privilege to be asked to unveil the original chambers in which the Graduate Union really was formed back in 1911. At the rooms of Dr. James Barrett, who was a famous ophthalmic surgeon at that time. I never knew James Barrett personally, but I sort of feel I have some connection with him because my first contact with the university actually was way back in 1938 when he was Chancellor of the university, and I was only at prep school in those days. But my big sister Marjorie, whom I'm sure many of you would have known, was a university student and was very active in university affairs, which communicated itself to the whole family, including even me and my dog. I say me and my dog because in 1938 there was a university fair which Margie was actively involved in because she was a student activist and all that sort of thing. And it was in aid of the new buildings of the union and so forth. And they had a dog show. And as a little boy, I brought my dog Danny along, and we won a prize. We won a prize because Danny was voted as the happiest dog. So now, what's that got to do with James Barrett? Well, he was Chancellor of the university at that time, but of course I never knew him. But I sort of knew him because we learnt the song where varsity students all, Sir James, he is our father, we throng the Wilson Hall and love the ladies rather, du jour. I don't know whether students at school sing that song, but they wouldn't sing it as Sir James Barrett, for Sir James being our father. And sadly, I sort of felt when I did come to the university many years later, it seemed wrong to be singing Sir Charles, who was our father. But in a way, well, they were both interesting men. I'm perhaps a little bit glad I didn't know Sir James Barrett. He was a rather grumpy character, I gather, but he certainly was very much involved in the very beginnings of the Graduate Association, and then later, of course, as Chancellor. And I did have one other sort of remote connection with Sir James Barrett, because my relatives had a guest house on Phillip Island at which James Barrett used to stay regularly, and he used to play the piano at the concerts they had. Apparently he was quite a good pianist, but I never heard that. So with all this ado, I'll now be happy and proud to unveil the original chambers in which the Graduate Union was originated.
Dr. McCready. Thank you everybody for your attention, and as I said, I hope you take the opportunity to have a look at the individual works of art. They are really something outstanding, and it's our gift to you for the next 100 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenda, and for Glenda's work during the year organising all those fun times that we had as celebrating our centenary. Well, that does conclude the formal parts of the evening, I suppose, if you call this formal. There is more refreshments and food I can see around, so now's the chance to join all your friends again and have something nice to eat and drink. So thank you very much for coming along.